Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. This episode is sponsored by Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. Today we are joined by Brian Stern. Brian is the CEO at LED Supply Co. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show, where today we're going to be talking about employee involvement on social media. And we were talking, but just before we started recording, we've obviously talked about employee involvement and company culture. We've also talked about what companies are doing with social media. I think this is fantastic. This is going to be a blending of the two, talking about, okay, how do we get our employee involvement and focus that on social media? It's going to be a great topic. But of course, before we get into that, Brian, maybe you can tell us a little about what you and your team are up to these days.
Yeah, definitely. So I started the company in 2009. We started as an LED lighting manufacturer, kind of flip-flopped to what we were doing and became an LED lighting distributor, and have primarily been doing that ever since. We've been extremely fast growing. We were on the Inc. 500 2 years running and have been on the Inc. 5000 a couple of times as well. And just been trying to kind of keep the company growing over the last few years. Last year, we started two different divisions of the company, LSC Contracting, which is an electrical contracting division, and LSC Energy, which is a renewables division, basically to provide services to our existing customer base through LED Supply Co. So we've been building those up over the last 12 months, and those are starting to really get some legs as well, which has been exciting. And building up our employee base within those two divisions of the company.
And speaking of sort of building up your employee base, I mean, obviously you're a quickly growing company, which is fantastic. Part of the reason that we found you and wanted to get you on the show is because you have experienced this kind of growth, and at least in part, it is attributable to this idea of sort of maximizing, utilizing the employee involvement on social media. So I know we've got sort of 4 points that we're going to be getting through on today's episode, but Brian, where would you like to start?
Yeah, definitely. I can kind of start with how we kind of originally formulated our social media strategy, just because it's been pretty organic since we started the company. Social media for us was something that was always interesting, but we were unsure of kind of where it was going to create the most value. A few different social media platforms for us have been the most valuable. I would say, LinkedIn primarily has been where we've seen the most value so far. But what we started to find out was that our vendors and our customers were paying a lot of attention to everything that we were posting. It was kind of surprising. We would meet with customers, we would meet with vendors, and one of the first things that they would say to us was like, "Hey, saw updates on your LinkedIn profile about your new building development," and this was happening over and over again. And so we started to put more and more effort into kind of what we were doing from a social media standpoint. And our marketing manager has definitely that's been one of our core focuses. But one of the most exciting things that we started to find was that when we got our employees involved with social media posts or posted about our employees, it definitely got them excited, and we found that they wanted to be more and more involved with what we were posting and how we were going about posting things. Mm-hmm. And so through that, we've kind of started to develop a little bit of a strategy, how we're focusing kind of our social media efforts and the types of different things that we're posting.
Yeah, that was one of the very first things that I had noticed, even when I was reaching out to you to sort of pick your brain about what we can talk about on today's episode. It was exactly that employee involvement in the social media post. And I know that one of the things that you had mentioned is that it actually shows your customers, it shows your vendors that you value your employees.
Definitely. So, the more we kind of get them involved and, the more we post about them, I think first off, our employees really appreciate it, but then, our customers feel more connected to the company. They get to see, the different employees that are possibly working in areas of the company that they might not be working with on a daily basis. And then our vendors also see kind of how deep our organization goes and how engaged our employees are. And it's added a remarkable amount of value to the company, to the culture, and definitely has helped strengthen a lot of our customer and vendor relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that you had mentioned was forming more of a bond with your customer base. I mean, it's enhancing that level of trust. You're putting a human face to what otherwise might be, more of a amorphous sort of service or product. I mean, you're really putting a human spin on things.
Exactly. I truly think that customers want to feel more connected to the customer, to the vendors that they're doing business with. And, the easier you can make it to, for them to be able to do that, I think the better. And, because this is something that's really, our social media strategy has really been formulated in the last 3 to 5 years. But over that time period, we've just found a tremendous amount of interest in kind of what we're doing. It's exciting that our customers want to know, what the latest updates are at the company. What's the next product that we're focusing on? What's the next growth engine that, LED Supply Co. is working on? And all the time when we speak with our customers, they're bringing up to us things that we're posting on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever it might be, or Twitter. And it's exciting to see how engaged they are with those types of posts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not only engage, but point number 3, one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is even inspiring a level of confidence in the company itself. I mean, you see the people behind the company, and that's inspiring an additional level of confidence.
Definitely. We work with some very large vendors like GE and Philips and Eaton and, some very big names. And, when you're starting out in any industry, there's, a lot of difficulty in establishing yourself. Well, what we've found is that kind of through our social media presence, we can kind of get our name out there in a significant way. And even at large companies like that, they're finding that, they're getting excited about the stuff that we're posting, and it shows them that we're a deeper organization than we might look like we are from the surface. There's more to it, and there's more that we're getting involved with. And it also produces some very good talking points when you're sitting down with, some upper management at those organizations, and they already know quite a bit about your company just from what you've been posting on social media. So for us, it's been extremely beneficial. It has definitely strengthened a lot of relationships, and it has improved, I think, the way that our vendors view us quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and based on our conversations sort of offline, it's not only seen a sort of a benefit to you and your company with the relationships you've created with clients and vendors, but also even just by investing in your employees, you've said that's almost shown improvements on that side of the spectrum as well.
Yeah, definitely. The more we invest in our employees, the more we engage our employees, I think the better they are. In terms of customer service, we found just by engaging them in social media that it kind of continues to strengthen their relationships with their customers, and then improves just their ability to serve those customers. And we can kind of showcase what we're doing for our employees through social media. And, I think that has kind of helped them feel both more engaged with the company, but also more in tune with kind of the company culture. You can kind of morph, how you want people to view the company through through what you're posting. And I think it helps to build a deeper company culture than you could have otherwise.
All right, today's growth story is about search engine marketing. Clear Company is an HR tech company that was doing a lot of things right. Their messaging was clear. Their product produced incredible results, but they were struggling to drive qualified traffic to their website. Then they found Directive Consulting, a B2B search marketing agency. Within the first 12 months of working with Directive, Clear Company was able to increase their qualified lead volume by 157%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Well, here's the thing, Brian. I think we've all also seen sort of social media done wrong at times. I mean, those are the ones that get shared the most, and everyone's saying like, "Oh my God, look at can you believe what these guys posted?" Do you have any pieces of advice when it comes to maybe some do's or don'ts, things that you have experienced, places in sort of utilizing this employee involvement on social media, like ways in which it has worked? How do you keep it genuine? How do you see a return on what you're doing?
Definitely. It's a really fantastic question. There's just plenty of companies and plenty of people that have, made lots of mistakes on social media, and you have to keep a very close eye on it, because the more you're engaging potential customers, the more opportunity there is for issues to arise, or posts or comments to be made that might be negative and need to be addressed. But what we've tried to do is you need to keep it professional but playful. If it's too professional, it's kind of boring. You need some excitement behind it. People don't always want to be reading business news. They don't always want to be learning about a specific product. They want to know more about kind of the culture behind it and the people behind it. And so having a certain amount of playfulness, I think, is extremely important. And that's what's going to engage the customer or vendor base. In terms of monitoring, that's just as important as kind of the strategy behind the posts. If you're all over the place and you're not doing a very good job of monitoring it, it's very possible you could have a customer that had a bad experience with you, and maybe post something that's to explain their experience, in a negative view. And it's really important for you to be able to address that very, very quickly. And you want to over address it, and you want to make sure that customer knows that, first off, you've seen that they posted it, but then you're doing something to improve that experience that maybe wasn't as positive as it should have been, and letting your other user base know that if something does go wrong, you're addressing it immediately. And I think that's where a lot of people probably fall short is, they either get angry that someone posted something, or they don't, it takes them 2 weeks to get back to that customer. And then it can kind of explode on them. And so, you're never going to have 100% happy customers. It's just impossible. Something will always go wrong at some point. And it's just a matter of being proactive on how you handle those situations so that there's the potential for a positive outcome.
Yeah, it's psychologically, everyone is always so much eager to focus on the good news, the good aspects, the good post. It's very difficult when you see someone that had a negative experience to sort of I'd say sort of eat crow and just kind of own it and say, well, but how can we fix this? How can we make it better? I think psychologically that is can be a difficult step for certain people to take. So it's great that you recognize it, and clearly you have sort of processes and steps in place to manage it when that does happen. Like you said, not everyone is going to be satisfied 100% of the time. It does really reflect, though, on your company how you handle it during those situations.
Definitely. And, the amount of negative responses that we get, they're pretty few and far between, but just like any other industry, there's always the potential for them. In most cases, I try to address them myself as the CEO of the company, to let that customer know that, first off, we're taking it very seriously, and the response is coming from the person at the highest level, so that they know that I'm willing to do anything that it takes to make sure that their negative experience becomes a positive one in the future. And I think I think that's, it's an important step to take. It doesn't always have to be the CEO responding to things like that, but they want to know that you're taking it seriously and you're doing something serious to address it. And, that is the most important part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, hopefully that's the exception to the rule and not the rule itself. If you're getting more complaints than compliments, maybe you need to reevaluate some other things in your company anyway.
I would agree with that.
So, Brian, we've been asking a lot of our guests in 2018. We've been able to feature so many amazing company leaders, founders, CEOs, such as yourself. Brian, what kind of legacy are you hoping to leave behind at the end of the day? And whether that is related to LED Supply Co., professionally or personally, or maybe even a combination of the two.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest thing for me, we're in our 9th year of business right now, which is pretty wild to think about. It feels like, I started it just, a year or two ago, but we are in our 9th year, and coming up on 10 here, I start to think about kind of where it can go and where I want it to go, and, what I want it to look like, 10, 20, 30 years from now. We have 33 employees, and, a lot of those employees have been with us for a long period of time. Some of them have been with us, since we started the company or just after. And I really want to build a company that can kind of just stand on its 2 feet and, last an extremely long time and provide for all of our employees and, allow for them to grow with the organization. That's been one of the biggest things for us, is just kind of employee loyalty. And, if they stick with us, they're going to move into new positions, into new areas of the company. But I want to build a company that's, will be here 20, 30 years from now and can be around even if I'm not. And it has a solid foundation, and it has the ability to kind of keep on going. And that's one of the biggest things for me is kind of focusing on what pieces I need to put in place to make sure that the company not only has a really bright future, but it just has a strong, stable base and stable core.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and, the way that you're so very intentional about treating your employees a certain way, involving your employees, I think that's obviously a great part of that puzzle. So again, we've been talking with Brian Stern. Brian is the CEO at LED Supply Co. Brian, if anyone in our audience, they're interested in finding out more about today's episode, they want to connect with you, they want to find out more about LED and what you and your team are up to, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Yeah, definitely. You can reach us at 877-595-4769, which is our main line. Visit us at www.ledsupplyco.com or visit our LinkedIn page. Just search LED Supply Co. You'll come up on our LinkedIn page, and chances are you'll be able to find me. So reach out to me. Happy to talk, and appreciate you listening today.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, thank you so much for your time. It really was a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.